Hello and welcome, or welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Noah, and welcome to my living room. In this video, I want to talk about the difficulties of a 28-year-old male in the United States, more specifically in Austin, Texas, in the year 2025. And I know what you're thinking. You're probably thinking, Noah, why would you make a video of you bitching about your life? And the truth is it's not that's not really the point. What I want this video to be is kind of a reference for me, like I said, this age in this city at this year. So people can kind of go back at later dates in 10 years, 5 years, 15 years, whatever it is, and kind of see what difficulties were like for individuals in this area at this age in this specific year. A video like this is something that I recently thought would have been kind of beneficial for me to see, when I was 17, 18, 20, just to kind of have as a reference to know what I was getting into. What are the difficulties of someone who is, 28 in the US, in this city, and I think it would just be kind of fun to see over time if these difficulties kind of persist or if they're going to be different, for people that are 19 now, that are 18 now, 17 now, and so on. So I really just want this video to be sort of a reference point for, my life at this point in this year. And maybe you too can kind of share similar experiences with me, or, hopefully it provides you of a little bit of an insight of maybe what's to come, if you are a little bit younger right now. And if you are older, past my age of 28, maybe you can kind of look back on the difficulties that I express in this video to reminisce on maybe if you had them and maybe you moved past them, maybe you didn't even have them at all in the first place. So with that being said, let's get into the first difficulty that I want to talk about in this video. The first difficulty is basically where we're at right now. In a house, right? So this is my first property, my first house, and it is a lot of work to keep this place not falling apart. And I just noticed now, looking in the camera, it's blurred right now, but there's a mess on my dining room right back there. That's a normal thing, but there's so many other details that kind of go into home ownership that I guess I didn't really think too much about before. That just take up so much of my time, so much of my mental bandwidth, and really are kind of a little bit of a difficulty. The first thing is just making sure the place is clean, right? It's got to be at least somewhat presentable, if someone comes over. I also don't want to live in a sty either, a pigsty. So keeping it clean is one thing. That's the floors, the garbage, the kitchen, the counters, the toilets, the floors, which I said, the yard work, right? That's another thing. The front yard, the backyard, which are both disasters because they weren't maintained prior to me moving in. So now I'm having to do, all of that work to kind of catch up on it. And it just becomes a lot. Another aspect to this, of course, is when something goes wrong, right? When something breaks, which it has, which I can explain, you're kind of on the line with it, right? It's your responsibility to either, or it's my responsibility to either hire, call someone, get someone in to fix something, or to do it myself. And the way that I like to think about things is that it's likely going to be done wrong if I have someone do it, which is a shame, but it is kind of a reality that we have in many service industries, I think, here in the United States, unfortunately, unless you're willing to take out a second mortgage to do something. So I take, initiative in my own hands and I try to, fix things. A good example is the toilet on my second story has probably never been worked on, touched up since the house was built in the 90s. And due to this, it just decided to leak. And it probably had been leaking for some time. And I finally noticed it. And the flooring, underneath it needed to be replaced. So now I have a bathroom that really isn't a bathroom anymore. It's just kind of an open space. I'll try to show a little bit of a clip of it. But that had to be done, right? So that involved, hours and hours of demolition, sawing, cleaning, just making an entire mess. But it's just a responsibility that, I had as, the homeowner here who didn't want to, just pay to have someone put a Band-Aid on it, to have the issue come back in, a year or two. There's also, of course, the aspect of all of the cooking, right? I don't eat like a gerbil, so cooking is kind of a chore and it's a lot of work. And that also entails the cleaning of all of the dishes, running the dishwasher almost every day for the most part, which is pretty crazy if you think about it. All of the towels, making sure that the towels are washed, making the bed, washing the bed sheets, vacuuming the carpet, cleaning the carpet if it gets dirty, which it often does, and so on, right? There's a lot of things that, kind of go into just that side of, home ownership. There is a second side, which is also on this list of a difficulty, is ensuring that, the money is there to keep paying for the property, right? There's a mortgage, there is the electrical, there's the gas, water, Wi-Fi, etc. And I know there might be many of you thinking, wow, Noah, at least you are in a house. I'm not in a house, and that's, at least you're in one, right? You can't complain. And I get that sentiment, I do kind of understand that, but the reality is that the sooner you get into one, even though it might be difficult, the better better off you're going to be in the long run. Because the way that our society is structured is that we like to keep things really dense, right, in one spot. Think of Tokyo, right, where you've got everybody going to one spot. That is the place to be. Anywhere else, I'm exaggerating there a little bit, but out in the country, you may as well, not go there unless you're retired or something like that. So the earlier you can get into the house, the better you're going to be, because frankly, if you wait around forever, there's not going to be anything left really in a specific area. So this is especially true if you're trying to live you really like a certain city, you want to be kind of close to this, you want to be close to that, you got to get in there. Otherwise, what's going to happen is, like I said, there's not going to be anything available. That's one option. The second option is everything's going to be so expensive down the road that the mortgage will be actually killing you. Right now, it's only partially killing me, but if I would have waited longer, it would have wholeheartedly killed me. Or option 3, you get into a house, but the house has a broken foundation, it's never been maintained, crack house type of material. It's one of the 3, right? You're going to end up in one of the 3, so you may as well, if you wait, so you may as well get in there, and that's kind of the option that I took, right? I wanted to get into it as an investment, other reasons to get it as well that I had, but I wanted to, I took on the endeavor, and it just happens to be a little bit of a difficulty ensuring that, like I said, the mortgage is getting paid. There's plenty of money there for the deductions to happen, and worrying about, all of the bills and stuff like that as well. So that about does it for the home property difficulties. I want to move in now to some other ones that are maybe a little bit more relatable generally. And I want to start with work, right? Career stuff. And I don't mean difficulty here in that I'm looking for work or I hate my job. Frankly, I really, really love my job. I really, really enjoy my job. But the difficulty that I kind of feel now, this downward pressure, is that the standard to be a adequate or exceptional employee, which is what you want to be, is very high. I think in 2025, it's as high as it's ever been. And the thing is that it's only going to get higher, obviously, due to all of these technological advances that we have, right? AI tools and so on. You can't just sit in the same job, just running by every single day, right? You can't just kind of sit there, right? You need to be actionable. You need to learn how these AI tools work. As an example, you need to be more efficient on a yearly basis. And that kind of pressure, like I said, that weight is kind of difficult, right? It is kind of a difficulty that I have, on a daily basis, just because of, how much I'm kind of putting into it, right? And an example that I can think of is in the year 2024, I did about 70 to maybe 80 hours of professional certifications, right, to kind of augment myself at work. In 2025, my goal was a little bit less, at like 50 to 60 hours total. And that could be 5 certificates, it could be 3, whatever it is. But that's kind of a lot. If you think about it, that many hours is like an extra week of work. So finding time for the extra week of work during your year is actually kind of a big deal. It's like at the end of the year in December saying, hey, by the way, you need to get an extra 40 hours in. Good luck. Granted, it's parceled out for me, throughout the year, but it is still, quite a bit of time out of my day that I kind of dedicate to becoming a better employee, more of an employee, and so on. And of course, right now we do have a lot of media suggesting that there is going to be job insecurity coming up here. We are in late September 2025. So we'll see how this pans out when I make my next video of difficulties in a year or whatever it is. Maybe things will be different. But that is the direction that jobs are heading, right? Is that, if you're not an exceptional employee, if you're not doing something really important, a tool will come around, a process will come around that's going to just do what you're doing, and you will have to figure something else out. And I know I'm not the only one that feels that weight, but I will say that being proactive with that knowledge is very, very tiring, because if I'm not doing something at work from 7 a.m. when I open my laptop to 3 to 5 or whatever it is, I'm still doing things on the side to try to augment myself as an individual, right? I'm building an application to, increase kind of my tech stack and stuff like that, and it does become to be a bit difficult. The other thing that I do want to mention that I believe is very important, that's very closely related to work difficulties, is that there's also a pressure to do all of these extra things at work to get promotions and to get your bonus, etc. Because the world that we live in, if you're not accomplishing that on a yearly basis, you're really kind of taking a pay cut, right? If you make $100,000 in 2025 and in 2026 you're still making $100,000 hypothetically, but you don't change your lifestyle, technically you're losing money, right? Because of inflation, right? The biggest thing a huge issue that we have, it's not just us, but a huge thing that kind of holds people back is the amount of inflation that we have on everything. And if you're not, like I said, if you're not getting promotions and moving up and becoming more, I think, doing more in life, right? Taking more trips, or, maybe finally buying a car that's not 15 to 20 years old in my case, or having a family, right, is going to be very, very difficult. So that just adds kind of another layer to the whole need to put in more effort at work, need to be more than exceptional and stuff like that. Another difficulty that I do want to mention is I'm going to combine two because they are pretty closely related. It's physical fitness, right? Physical well-being and hobbies. And I'm going to talk to them, like I said, kind of together because they are pretty similar. But starting with physical fitness, it has become very difficult to make time for that. Likewise for hobbies. And the reason being is because my time is kind of eaten up through all of my other maintenance things. If I'm not working from those, 8 or 8.5 hours throughout the day, I'm having to make food. I'm having to do laundry, like I previously mentioned. So it gets really difficult to find time to, drive out to the gym, put an hour and a half in, on a quality workout, and then come back. I have resorted to actually going to the gym at like 5 in the morning, right? Get up at 5, get to the gym 5:15, leave the gym at 6:30, then come back and kind of start my day. And that is very difficult. It is very, very difficult to do that, 2 to 4 times a week. Maybe 4 times is ambitious. Maybe it is 2 to 3 times a week, but still, it is, it is a decent amount. I know people might argue, well, why not just go after work? And the reason being is that if I would go after work, I'm wasting so much time either sitting in traffic, waiting on equipment at the gym, and maybe a combination of both, that my hour and 15-minute investment is maybe even closing in like on a hour or 2 hour investment, which I don't want to spend that much time. So you kind of have to bite the bullet. And in my case, I wake up at 5 to try to get to the gym, but it's a difficult thing to keep trying to maintain that. And we all know that it is extremely important, right? You don't do it just because it's fun, right? We do it because, you want to have muscle mass. You want to make sure your bone density is good, because if you don't, if you don't do that, right, and you get older, and you fall or whatever it is, you're going to suffer, right? It's going to hurt. You might not be able to recover in the same way that you would be able to if you were actually taking care of yourself. Obviously, looks are, our physical appearance are kind of a big deal nowadays as well. So it is something that, you want to be doing. And, as I've grown up, here at 28, it is just not the same feeling to go to the gym as it was in high school, 5 years ago or whatever it was. And the same thing really goes for hobbies, where, hobbies are there to keep you creative, to keep you kind of thinking outside of the box, and actually to make you happy too. A lot of hobbies really add a lot of value to our life, and those, if you don't have time for those, it can be very easy to just get caught up in, like I said, the maintenance of your life, right? Your work, your cooking, your sleeping, an hour of Netflix or an hour and a half of Netflix before you go to sleep, rest time, and that's basically it. Those 5 things are like your entire life. And then if you have a kid involved, that, maybe you won't sleep as much or whatever it is. So it's become very difficult to try to squeeze in certain hobbies like this. I really do enjoy making videos. I wish I had more time to make more and try extra creative things, with videography and stuff like that. But I just cannot find that time, or it's very difficult to. I have to do a lot of planning ahead of time in order to do certain things. Thankfully, a video like this, I can kind of set up shop, turn the mic on and start talking. But, there's other hobbies that I like to do that I just don't get to do as much as I would like. One of the last difficulties that I'm going to leave with you guys today, and I hope the video hasn't been too long, is the difficulty of kind of the world around us, right? I feel as though we are in a state of a real divide in the United States and around the world, and other countries probably have the same thing. But, at least while I'm living here, it does feel like there are tensions between half of the people that you meet on the street. It does feel like it's kind of this half and half, which is very weird if you think about it. If you have a team of, and we are a team right here in the States, we're all supposed to be on the same team. If you have a team of 10 people and 5 people want to play this way and the other 5 want to play a different way, you guys aren't going to win any games, right? You guys are going to suck. You're going to get blown out every single game. So that's weird to me, this whole, and I'm not too politically involved in a lot of things, if I'm being honest. Politically obtuse is how I would refer to myself. But it does feel like a lot of things, a lot of disagreements culturally within our culture here in the States stem from political discourse, political disagreements. And it just doesn't make sense to me. And it's very palatable, right? You can feel it in the atmosphere. You can feel it on online, on social media. I really try not to, pay too much attention to it as much as I can, but you still want to be at least a little informed, as much as you can. And it just feels like we're at such a point where you don't know if you're going to run into someone that is a fan of you and what you like in your life or whatever, or if you're going to run into someone that hates you, or, you just don't know. And that's just always been kind of a weird concept to me, because you'd think that we, as humans in 2025, and we've gone through wars, I mean, still going through some wars, I guess. We've gone through so much together that we would at least kind of be, maybe there would be like 10 or 15% that are very different from the rest of the population. But then 80% would say, oh, yeah, we want people to be able to say what they want. We want people to have certain rights. We want to take care of people that are disabled and need help. And I mean, these are, I think these are just standard things, but it feels like we can't even agree on a lot of those things. And, we want to make sure, customers are being treated well, like services within a culture are good and they're not ripoffs, they're not scamming people. But it just feels like that's not the case, and like I said, it's very, you can just feel it. It's like it's an atmosphere that I think many people can feel. I know that's hopefully just not me. And that is another difficulty that I just have, right? So it's not directly in my life, but it is in my surroundings that do kind of, when I am out and about in the world, that do kind of affect me, personally in kind of a negative way. Because at the end of the day, I would love for our aura right here in the States to be positive, right? I just don't understand that. I don't know why that's the case, at this day and age, but unfortunately it is. But there you have it. Those are a few of the difficulties that I experienced and that I deal with on a regular basis. And I really just wanted to, like I said, put this kind of in the online stratosphere to hopefully maybe provide as a warning to, some individuals that are a little bit younger. If you're close to age and me, maybe you can sit back in your chair and say, I'm not alone. There's another guy out there that's going through that difficulty too. And I do understand there's a lot of people that are going through maybe worse things than I am, but that's really not the point of this video, unfortunately. And if you're older, maybe you can look back on this video and say, man, I'm glad I'm not 28 in 2025. But if you have enjoyed the video, if you've stuck along, thank you so much. And I will see you all in the next one.